Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today, we have the Sergeant in the house. Chris Hallberg, he is the author and founder of The Business Sergeant. So get ready to get your house in order, or you will drop and give me 20. But you are in for a treat. Great guy, great content. I won't give everything away because you got to listen. You got to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. But we're going to get into the 6 components of the 137 problems you have in business. We're going to talk about Napoleon. We're going to talk about connecting with the C-suite. We're going to talk about systems. So a lot of good stuff. Speaking of systems, what kind of systems do you have in place to make every sale? Do you even have a system? Do you have a system for networking? Do you have a system for email marketing? Do you have a system for blogging and creating content? Do you have a system for reaching the decision maker, handling voicemails, handling gatekeepers and receptionists, executive assistants? Do you have a system for setting firm appointments that the decision makers and all of the decision makers actually attend? Do you have a system for running a meeting to where you're getting information instead of giving the information, giving free consulting? That is critical. When I learned how to do that one thing, my career changed, my life changed, my income changed, all for the better. Do you have a system for securing the order quickly? Do you have a system for securing referrals and testimonials? Everything is a system. Everything in life you need to get lined up, especially in business. You cannot be shooting from the hip. When I talk about the 7 deadly sins of selling, number 1 is shooting from the hip. Do you have a system for handling your emails? Do you have a system for starting your day? Do you have a system for delegating? If you can measure it, you can improve it. And there's probably not enough things in your business and professional life that you're measuring and tracking. Even your personal life. When it comes to exercising, when I got serious about losing weight and really getting in shape, this was way back in, I want to say late 2000, early 2001. My wife and I did the Body for Life Challenge, the 12-week program by Bill Phillips. Our friends recommended it to us. We measured what we ate, we tracked it, we scheduled our meals, we scheduled our exercises, and we both got into phenomenal shape. My wife so it was late 2000 because our daughter was born February of 2000. So my wife had 3 kids in 3 years, 3.5 years. She was still in great shape, but she wanted to really take it to another level. So when we measured and tracked, we got into great shape. You know, I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now for 10 months, and the time between promotions, is tracked. How much do you attend? How hard do you apply yourself? I'm reading books and watching videos in between classes. That type of mentorship, that type of support group, being able to train with less experienced people. So I'm actually able to give a tip here and there. I don't know too much, but what I do know, I gladly share. And then I have a lot of higher belts that are showing me different moves. And I learn from smaller guys. I learn from bigger guys. I learn from women. I learn from children. We have some teenagers and some, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Sometimes they'll come in and roll with us. And I learn from these. These kids are amazing that have been getting after it. They're so much more flexible. They can do some crazy moves. And I can't always pull those off, but it opens my eyes to the possibility, right? So I learn from everyone, even if I'm just teaching them, because when you teach, you actually learn more than the student, right? So being surrounded by, we've got a guy in there, it's a purple belt. He is 67 years old. He started at 61. I thought I was crazy starting at 46. This guy started at 61. Very technical, very efficient in what he does. He's a smaller guy, so he's strong, but he can't rely just on strength. But he has better cardio, he has better technique because he needs it by being small. And so, because a lot of times big guys can be sloppy because we can just bowl people over. But the goal is to use your brains, to use leverage to win. So I bring that up because that's what you get in the Make Every Sale program. And now it's a month-to-month program. You can get 2 months free if you enroll for a whole year. But it's month-to-month with a 1-year money-back guarantee. You're going to learn from young people, old people, brick-and-mortar business owners, service providers, you name it. And then, of course, you can teach others as well. So check it out, makeeverysale.com. It's what the sergeant recommends. It's what Captain Schaefer recommends. So head on over there now, makeeverysale.com. Pause this interview for a moment, go enroll, and then come back and listen to our guest, which starts right now. Chris Hallberg, all the way from Denver, Colorado. Man, are you really the business sergeant?
I've been called that and many other things before.
And worse?
Much worse than that, for sure.
So what are we doing, man? You're applying, what do we have here? Military systems to your business and outperform the competition. Is this like military intelligence? Is that really possible?
That's an oxymoron, right? Military intelligence.
I know, man. I know. So can we take the military and grow a business? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think there's some elements, some things that you can learn in the military that are easily transferable to the civilian business space. And what my book, The Business Sergeant's Field Manual, is about is basically what I learned as a young leader in the Army National Guard Military Police Corps, and how I took those life lessons, leadership lessons, and transferred them into a sales management, sales executive, business ownership, and now coaching other business owners. So the premise of the book is, number one, adopt your mindset to a more military team-based mindset, and then install or implement a business operating system. EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is the one that I teach. But that's essentially what the book's about, Wes.
So in the military, it can be easy to form a team, especially when somebody's shooting back at you, right? And all of a sudden, you're best friends with the guy next to you. How do you do that in business, though? Because sometimes, it may not feel like life or death. Maybe things are okay. How do you pull that real world, do this or die, into a business setting where people are sipping coffee from their Keurig and talking about their fancy football scores, and they're complaining because there's not enough gluten-free items on the lunch menu? Yeah,
the culture you're describing is the one that most people would recognize, right? The majority of businesses, I think Gallup, they came out with a poll, was it early last year, said that 70% of Americans were disengaged in the workforce, right? So the situation you just talked about right there, and I can't argue with you. It's a stretch for the average person to think, hey, this is serious. I want to come to work and be a part of an elite unit and really do some big things, both personally, developmentally wise, financially. But there are some people that like to kind of go big, go home, and they don't like to be around average employees who are okay with average results. So one of my mentors, Wes, told me many years ago, he said, Chris, no matter how bad things get in business, no one's going to show up to your house tomorrow and eat your children. Okay. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. So obviously the stakes that the brave men and women of our American military serve day in and day out, right? The stakes are way, way, way up here. Whereas if you fail in business, you might wish you were dead because it doesn't feel good. And it takes a while to come back from a business failure. But if we come into the office and working on a team and we place a bit more importance on it and really value those teammates to our left and our right and really take a run at something special, it feels great. It doesn't feel like work. Without, at the risk of going on a rant, when I talk to servicemen and women who have either recently or been out for a while, you yourself are a veteran, I understand, Air Force, would maybe you'd agree with me on this one, is they really miss the camaraderie. They don't miss The hours, the food, the pay, none of those things are listed in what people miss when they get out. It's that sense of togetherness and creating, and you can do that at the office. I know because I've helped people do it successfully.
Right. So I'm looking here as well. So the debut book from the #1 ranked top 50 leadership and management experts, Inc. How did you, A, who the heck tracks this stuff? B, how do you apply for that? And C, I mean, how did you make that transition? How do you go from the military to growing a business and then excelling in a business?
Yeah, I mean, once again, there's when you go into the military, there's top 20% people there. In the civilian world, there's top 20% people there. If you can take the very best from both and kind of mash them together, I believe that has a lot to do with it. I don't have an MBA from Harvard. I'm not particularly good looking or well spoken, but what I do understand is people, what makes them tick, and when we just give a little bit more, create a systems. The military is just a bunch of systems. So I also find that that's what provides a lot of safety for my business clients. And my clients that I coach, Wes, they range, just to give you some context, they range anywhere from, say, $1.5 million a year in sales to $700 million a year in sales. So all over the board. But I'd say I'm usually in the room with a $50, $100, $150 million company, people that are still entrepreneurial. They're scaling, but they're not a corporation where, everyone's, kind of hiding behind 25,000 employees, things of that nature. So when you have the right environment and you have people that think this is really cool. I was never in the military. I've always wanted to be in the military. Could you teach me some of these accountabilities and maybe organizational structures and how the organizations and structures operate internally and externally? And you show them that, and it works, and people can get excited about it. I think that's just the reason why I was able to catch a little wind in my sail, is because I had that prior reference of going hard, going fast, transferring that to the civilian world, and then working out the kinks over nearly 20 years in business after the military.
Yeah. So are you helping like across the board, sales, marketing, operations? I mean, or do you have a specialty or things that you avoid?
Yeah. So I'm usually working with the CEO and their leadership team. So I'm usually in the room with, 5 to 10 executives on a day-to-day basis for a full day offsite session. As a business coach, as I referred to earlier, I use a variety of different tools. The main hammer I hit most of the nails with is that entrepreneurial operating system, or EOS, developed by my now good friend Gino Wickman. And that system is outlined in his book, Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, a best-selling business book. If you haven't heard of that, you've got to check that out. Here we go. We're going for the bookshelf.
Oh, there it is.
Black book, orange writing.
There you go.
There it is right there, my guy.
I'll make sure and link to that.
Yes, absolutely. So basically, just a quick commercial about Traction for your listeners, because if they're running an organization, they got to understand this tool. This is literally something that I've been using with great success since early 2014, when I was introduced to Gino and became one of his professional, then certified EOS implementers. My coaching practice prior to that tool set was getting some varied results from clients, some way up here, some mediocre, average type stuff, and then some stuff a bit lower. And once I started using EOS for all my leadership teams, it's just kind of the basic language that we were going to speak together in our work. About 80% of those clients moved forward in a very deliberate fashion forward. And the 20% that didn't just didn't want to put in the work. So love you, Gino, but basically my book here is about 20% EOS. So I have little parts of it that show through, and I introduce EOS to people that maybe don't know about it. But there's a lot to be saying about safety in the system. When a leadership team is stuck, they're having difficult conversations, they don't know what to do, they refer to the system. The system says do this. So what should we do? Let's do what the system says. And we build that muscle, and people it's not such a big deal to call something out because we have a way to remedy it, versus before, calling people out was generally viewed as hostile or picking a fight with somebody or something like that.
Right. How do you work within a system but not let the system completely box you in, right? How do you stay innovative and creative while still working within a system?
Yeah, that's really important. I think the system is a framework, a scaffolding, right? A base, a true north, whatever you want to call it. But the system just kind of says, hey, we've agreed, this is where we're going, this is how we're going to do it, this is who we're going to do it with. And then when something else comes up that doesn't look like that, doesn't mean it's just a hard no. It just means it needs to be looked at. So with all the 10,000 moving parts of a business or a sales team or, insert whatever organizational structure you'd like, it becomes complex. So if you can create a system for it to operate, Jim Collins said, you systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. That's one of my favorite Collins quotes, because the system allows you to just kind of have the freedom and time to when a flag pops or a light goes off, you have the time to give just a one-on-one experience with whatever that outlier is on the system. So you start to manage by exception versus trying to be there to catch every ball that's in the air.
Right. So how did you make that transition, from the military to being on your own? Because I see a lot of time, like our veterans, they don't know the value that they bring. And they undervalue their skill sets, their training, their expertise, because they're used to getting beat up, not paid very much. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, whoa, I can make double or triple or 4 times what I was being paid. It's like, I'm the same person and I just change uniforms, change out of a uniform into some khakis. How does this work, right? How did you make that transition?
Yeah, I think it was when I left, military, paramilitary service in 1999 is when I took off both uniforms. It was one of those things. It was time, kind of been there, done that, got the T-shirt, was ready for the next phase of my life. And again, I don't think I got the memo. I don't think someone really told me I was out because very quickly, getting into sales, direct sales in the construction space, I drove after goals with dedication and really went after it, just like I enjoyed competing in the service. And even though I was kind of on my own, I don't know, I felt like I still had something to prove. And when I very quickly got an opportunity to be a sales manager, only after just a couple of years of being a salesperson, that's when I was a squad leader. I was an E6, a staff sergeant. And, I had about a dozen people that counted on me for a lot of things. And when I got 2 or 3 salespeople to manage, it was kind of like, okay, good. I got some people again here. Let's start to work on them. And in the process, and I think a lot of the people that are, listen to your show are, in sales management. And, I think a lot of people could attest to this. When you train other people, you yourself get a lot better yourself. You sharpen your own sword there when you help other people sharpen theirs. So that's kind of what I fell back into. And then I just used a lot of the things that I found in the military in my sales management career. And I'd be happy to talk about some of the contests and devices, uniform accoutrements, if you will, that I did that were very military in nature, and they were very successful in a civilian sales force.
Yeah, sure.
So one company, you're familiar with the Masters, the Augusta, the big golf tournament every year, naturally. Yep. And what the winner gets, a jacket. It's
a green jacket.
Green jacket. Thank you. So what I did is I had just a green golf shirt, sales shirt with the company logo on it. And that shirt wasn't really in the color palette prior to me being there. When I became a sales manager of this organization, I had to find ways to get around a dozen salespeople to compete in a healthy way. So I developed the Masters shirt. So basically, the salesperson from the prior month could wear the green polo shirt, and they're the only person authorized to wear the shirt. So if you were here, we are in November, you would have to had best in sales and October, and you got to keep it for the whole month. And then whoever won it in November got bragging rights. So parking spot, big lazy boy at the end, private coffee machine because coffee's for closer, and a green shirt. So didn't have to spend a lot of money, but sales went up, 20-30% right away, and became something that was great pride to the team. Another team that I worked with came up with the whole A-Team. This is a disaster recovery company that helped recover residential areas after hurricanes and tornadoes. And just a gold little badge that said A-Team on it with a wreath around it. And then just like a marksmanship badge, if you will, in a military uniform, had space to hang a few hanger bars. And it would say, like, it would start at 250K restored, 500K restored, 2 million restored, 5 million restored. So the sales reps got to put this badge on there, this small little brass with the company logo on it, and they'd be out in the field, and clients would say, "Hey, what's that?" And then they get to tell the story how they're in the the top 20% of the company, and they have a special meeting, and they're really experts at what they do. So it didn't take long for the people that didn't have one of those badges to want one of those badges really hard, and to do all the work that we couldn't get them to do prior to that. They would gladly do that just for a shot for a $5 pin. So there's a couple of great examples how the military does a great job recognizing people, and the civilian workforce does a horrible job recognizing people for their contributions.
Yeah, I've always given advice to companies, to look at network marketing companies. There's a reason they have, 87 levels, You're right. A diamond, you're a blue diamond, you're a blue pink diamond, you're a ruby blue pink, emerald diamond, sapphire, quadruple level. Because every week you want to be recognizing people. And in the network marketing space, people it's their side hustle because they're not getting any recognition at work. Wow. And so Jenny Craig and all these things every week, right? Go show up and weigh in. Be held accountable, get a little prize for staying on track, and you'll stay on track. I don't know, man. How come companies don't figure this out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's just so obvious, just the smallest things. It's Napoleon Bonaparte's quote here from the French general was, "No one will ever lay down their life for any amount of money, but they'll gladly do it for a bit of yellow ribbon."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that dude was leading people years ago. This wasn't like a new concept. So you're absolutely right with network marketing. And I think people really need that. And there's so little of that in the military. And you served, and again, thank you for your service. You walk into a room and see somebody in their dress blues, and you can just kind of glance over there and tell you what kind of person that is. I mean, no words exchanged. You see Air Force, you see like a PJ or something, a pararescueman. I mean, you see somebody in that colored beret or a green beret in the Army. It's that long tab, that Special Forces tab. You don't need to know anything about that person. You just know that they're a badass. And whatever you do, they do it bigger and better than you do, most assuredly.
Right. So did you have to fight, to get these approved, or do companies, are they just not aware of it? Like as soon as you kind of open their eyes, they embrace it.
Yeah. It's like, well, here, I got an idea. We've never done that before. Well, good. You've never had me here before either. So this is the part of having me as your sales manager is we're going to do some things. Some of them are going to work and some of them are going to be, some of them are going to be a failure, but the idea is that I can get enough of these to work to pay for the ones that don't. So, that was kind of the right fit for me to come aboard was in the interview process. And I think that sales managers, people in the sales space, should be very choosy about who they're going to spend their time with because they don't have a second them. What are you selling? Who are you selling it to? How much are you selling it for? What's the climate like? These are the things that are really the most important things, right? And when you get a great fit and you're with your team, your squad, your unit, you can do some pretty great things. When you're not, you're with the wrong people. then it doesn't feel as good. And if you don't have a really awesome product or a really awesome service, and you're not with a good team, add all that up together, and you just got a bunch of not so awesome. And who wants to be around that?
So you mentioned early on, I mean, you're working with C-level executives, a lot of offsites. Do you have any tips or tricks for reaching the C-suite and setting appointments with these higher level folks and getting orders? Because I know a lot of people struggle with calling high into an organization and landing that sale.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think the expertise, the subject matter experts, usually lives just right outside the door of who I work with. And in a lot of cases, I'll have the head of sales, right? The CSO or the CFO and the COO and the CEO and all the C-suites. But the people that actually use the tools, the people that usually are the ones vetting the things that people are selling, are usually not communicated to. They're usually communicated above. And then whoever at the C-suite determines this fits my current pain of the day, flavor of the month, then I will delegate this down for someone to look into it. And sometimes that can accelerate the sales process because the boss has already kind of green-lit it, if you will. And now it's up to, you can accelerate that through a conversation with that tier 2, tier 3 subject matter expert. I find that if your sales force is having good conversations with the people on the ground, or maybe the people above them, these tier 2 operators that I'm speaking of right now, and find out where they're failing. This is a weird conversation because no one wants to talk about that. But if that person is lucid with where they sit in their year, and what are they crushing and what are they missing, start talking about what they're crushing at the organization in their department. Get them talking about themselves. Who doesn't want to do that, right? And then once you learned out what's working, well, that's great. Sounds like you guys are going to have a great year no matter what. Now, obviously, there's got to be some stuff that's not working as well as the stuff we just talked about. Give me some of those things right there. Wouldn't it be awesome to just have a super awesome year? I mean, you're talking about here. What if I was to actually fix some of these things that you're not winning at right now, and I could add these wins onto that already huge list of wins for you? What would those things be? And start the conversation there. And you've got to do some rapport building. But it's funny how in my sessions, all day sessions with my leadership teams, we talk all day about what's not working. It's working, good job, keep that up. That's all the time I'm going to spend on that for the day. Now let's talk about what's not working. Well, my marketing's not effective because the 4 people that I pay to do that don't really know what they're doing, and we don't know where to go for help. Meanwhile, there's a million marketing automation companies with sales staffs that would love to have these conversations. And I'm asking questions, and they're like, well, I don't know. I don't even know where to find this stuff. So the people writing the checks are almost clueless to what they need, right, and how to get it. So if I'm at the very highest level of business, spend my days talking about what's not working, wouldn't that be an interesting conversation? Because that's how the C-suite, that's what they're working on. So if the conversation to the sales is, hey, I got this product, it can make you do this better. Well, whatever they're trying to sell, if that's the additive argument that so common is in sales language, right? What if that's working okay or good enough? Sorry, you missed out on all those conversations to what's not working well and how your product or service could address those quickly.
So are you saying still start at the C-suite and to try to get that referral down?
Yeah.
To users?
Yeah, I think the conversations are a little easier to have. I guess if I wasn't clear on that, the conversations are easier to have at that director, sales manager type level, or manager to whoever you're selling into. Somebody that probably has a great deal of influence in the sale, but doesn't necessarily going to stroke the check and give you a high five. Right. But it has a lot to do with that facilitating that process happening. My point is if you can have that conversation with that lower level, which is a little easier to crack into, build some more rapport, and find out what they're not winning at, and then you can come up with a solution for them to take up the hill and show them how that can win. That's a good way in. Or if you can just hit the C-suite with that conversation as, hey, I hear you're having a great year. How would you like to really, run up the score here on the calendar, if you don't mind? That wouldn't be tacky, would it, if we, hit your number, exceeded your numbers by another 30%?
Oh no, I just want to beat my competition by $1.
Yeah. So, hey, the bottom line is, and tag on piece of advice on that for your question, how to penetrate in is, that's what it's all about. How are you going to make somebody look good inside that organization when they say, this is the solution I want, this is the person I want to work with? They're taking quite a bit of social capital within their organization and attaching it to you. Why the hell should they do that if you're not really the right solution and are prepared to deliver on that?
Right. Yeah, the old adage, nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, huh?
Yeah, there you go.
You got to show how you're different, and how buying IBM is going to, unless you work for IBM, but working with the big guys, a lot of times isn't the right way. You need those outliers. You need the scrappy ones still hungry, get that bleeding edge, idea to
yes.
Help differentiate, and get that leg up. So very cool. So you became, I didn't realize, so does Gino have like a program? So you're like a certified coach with him?
Yeah. I started doing that with Gino in February of 2014.
Nice.
I think there was about 65 people that had the training when I went through. Now it's pushing 200. I actually just got back from Detroit in my quarterly meeting there. So there's a lot of different business coaches, leadership management folks. I mean, organizational experts, culture people. This EOS tool set, at the high level, it's I'll just give you a quick drive through on that. What his argument is there's about 136 problems in business. They're all symptoms of the 6 key components of any business, any industry being weak. So the first key component is the vision component. That's just getting the leadership team and then ultimately the entire organization 100% on the same page with where you're going and exactly how you're going to get there. Answering 8 simple questions, simplified strategic planning anyone could understand, and then getting everyone to share that all the way down to number 1 to number 50 if you have 50 employees. The second key component is the people component. That's putting the right people in the right seats, an old Jim Collins additive there. And the right people means they share the core values. You want to hang out with them. Right seats means they get it, want to have the capacity to do the work that you're paying them to do and need them to do very well at a high level. Third key component is the data component, and that's getting rid of all the egos and the subjectives and the personalities and boiling everything down to a handful of numbers. That's a scorecard, measurables. Sales teams are very familiar with the data component for sure.
Yep.
The fourth key component is the issues component, just creating an open and honest environment where people can solve business problems. They can stick their neck out. No one's going to come along and collect it. You actually get a pat on the back for pointing out something that's not working versus the stink eye and a transfer to the Anchorage, Alaska office. The process component is just saying, hey, this is our way. This is our franchise prototype, a checklist, outlines, keep it consistent, keep it scalable. And then finally, the traction component is just bringing that vision down to the ground and making it a reality by executing really well, creating a 90-day world using rocks, strategic initiatives, Dr. Covey's term there, and then creating a meeting pulse and having a weekly meeting. It's like the Super Bowl of business meetings. We call it a level 10 meeting. Most meetings are an epic waste of time. So this meeting replaces 2 or 3 other meetings of equal length, and you just kind of go big or go home once a week, and then put your head down and execute, and then come back to that weekly meeting. So that's a real high flying overview. But you can see now, thinking back to your service career, they had a system. Yep, that's how we got this. That's how we did this. There was a personnel office, or there were billets. There was only so many positions available, so you had to be this ranked with this experience to do that. So the career trajectory was really clear. You look at the whole system, and when I first saw that, that's what drew me to it like a moth to the flame, because I lacked that system after getting out of the service in civilian work. So when I found this system to grab onto, and then just started talking in military terms, holding people accountable like would be in a military unit, these organizations are experiencing amazing transformations, and it's a ton of fun because I'm sure you can attest here if you're willing to tell any of your stories here today, any that are eligible for retelling on a medium like this. You Air Force guys are pretty wild. Think about the having the freedom to kind of have that system to just kind of do your thing then.
Yeah, I don't know what I can really tell, man. It's a family-friendly podcast,
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember, man, my first assignment was in Korea. And I remember having to make a training, an SOP, right? Standard operating procedure. We had to replace it. And it was crazy how detailed it had to be because the assumption was literally, I had a bullet in my head and the next person had to take over, right? They had to operate the equipment under duress, maybe for the first time ever, and being that granular, I think that kind of sunk in with what I do in business and sales training and just, that attention to detail and because, one little thing can screw up a big thing. So these having these systems in place, it's I can see why you're successful. And the book, it's a great cover, it's a great title, it's a great concept. So man, it's no wonder that things are growing for you. So congratulations, my friend.
Thank you very much. That's awesome. And whatever all the work you're doing in your sales with those systems, it's funny you said that under duress. I mean, there's a reason why an AT-4, an anti-tank bazooka, has a big yellow arrow on it with a point. You don't want to whip that around and your buddies aren't going to like that. So that's why your students and the systems that you teach, when the client says something in the heat of the presentation and kicks you off your script, what's the track to get them back on? What's the acronym you taught them? What's the system they're working in that they can say, if they're well-trained and well-rehearsed, they can get right back on track and they can close that sale versus somebody that doesn't know the acronym to take care of a stoppage. Yeah. That's the one that comes to my mind is your M16 jams in the Army. It's the sports acronym. Yeah. Slap the bottom of the magazine, pull the charging handle to the rear, observe the chamber, release the charging handle, tap the forward assist, shoot to kill. I remember it 20 years later. So what are those same systems that you have as a salesperson when the first flying in the boardroom and somebody's throwing you a curveball, what system are you going to do to get back on track? I think that's exactly what we need more of,
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in sales, I hated doing role playing. And then I found out I hated it because usually it was a cheesy sales trainer making me rehearse cheesy sales lines.
Yep.
And now it's a big component of what I do. And because that under duress, like literally this morning, my 10-year-old daughter is interested in volleyball. Her 13-year-old sister is in her second year. And so she's interested and she's wanting to practice. And I said, this morning, I said, look, let's get on YouTube. Let's find some drills that you can do alone, right? Because we can't always go out and practice with you. And the volleyball pit is like half mile away across a major street in our neighborhood, right? So we can't just immediately walk over. And I said, here's the deal. You need to figure out how to bump it to yourself, set it to yourself 100 times in a row. She's like, 100 times? I said, here's the deal. As you get to 10 and then 20 and then 30, you're going to start to get nervous. As you get to 80 and 90, you're going to get really nervous. Oh my gosh, am I going to make it to my big goal? I said, you're going to be nervous like that in a game if you don't practice, but if you can be nervous and see how you handle it, then when the game comes, you'll be like, oh, this is easier than trying to hit it 100 times in a row. So, we got to create that in business. So certainly in sales, because it can be super high pressure, especially trying to win the green polo right?
Right.
What are you going to do? It's you got 2 days left in the month, 2 days left in the quarter, 1 day left in the year. How are you going to do to pull that in? If you haven't practiced it, even picking up the phone, right? It can be just you're branching out to a new division or a new industry, or you're finally calling up to that C level and you're used to calling the division managers or the hands-on technicians. It can be nerve-wracking calling the CEO of a big company.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be though, because that individual just has this. He has problems, or she has problems. They just have the different problems. So think about this for just a second. What you said, it's so true. I mean, that's how people think. But let's unwind that for just a second. In military terms, that's FUBAR thinking, right?
Yeah.
We can't do it. That CEO who you've been reluctant to call for the last 6 weeks is experiencing some sort of pain in their organization that you could have fixed 6 weeks ago if you just got off your ass and called them. So you find out what people need help with and then help them with that. I hate to oversimplify it, but you can't help somebody if you don't call and ask if they need it.
Yeah.
So, but if you sound like everybody else sounds, they might think that you're there to help yourself. And obviously it's okay if we win a bit after our client wins. There's nothing wrong with saving the world, doing good, and being successful at the same time.
Yeah.
But the point is, let somebody call you and say, never call me again. I never want to hear from you again. If you call me, if you haven't heard those 3 statements from a prospect, they're wanting to call from you right now. Call today. Simple as that.
I know. And I always say, well, like your guy said before, they're not going to eat you. Right? I mean, just pick up the phone, call them. They're not going to eat you, even if they scream and yell at you. Most of them are going to forget you ever called, before the end of the day, and you can call them again.
I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Oh, that person didn't need my help. No. All right, well, good. Now I can cross that person off my list, and that gives me more capacity to focus on the people that might. Yep. And then once I'm done discovering who does and who doesn't, and I'm in the room with the right people, then the gloves are going completely off, because I'm here to help them get to a solution that they can't solve on their own. Right. That's why I'm here. So, as far as I'm concerned, if they're going to take a meeting with you, they're telling you they're looking for ways to buy from you. Your job is just basically not screw that up. It's not your responsibility to figure out how to make it happen. Your job is to listen to what they need to have happen, and then figure out if you can get them there. That's pulling the string across the desk versus pushing it. It's a hell of a lot easier. Stay straight.
Indeed. Well, man, this has been awesome. Where do we send people to learn more about you?
Yeah, you can find my website, www.bizsgt.com. And I also have a peer EOS website, which is www.tractioninc.com. If you want to learn more about EOS, since we talked a little bit about that here on the podcast.
So that's yours, or?
Yep. Gino Wickman's website is www.eosworldwide.com. That's where you can go and find a local implementer and learn more just about EOS. My practice, my company is a provider of EOS implementation. Myself and I have a couple implementers that work with me, but there's all kinds of folks all over the world now that have the training. And I can't recommend that as a great step. Use your tools. I've got some sales and marketing tools in my book, the Business Sergeant's Field Manual, but there's a lot of EOS stuff in there too. So there's a lot of different ways for people to find it.
All right. Sounds good. We will link to all of that in the show notes. Well, very cool. Chris Hallberg, all the way from Denver. Thanks for coming on the Sales Podcast, man. It's been awesome.
Great to be here, Wes. Have an awesome day, man. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Systems create safety. That was a great discussion. Brought back a lot of memories, talking about when I was in Korea and deployed to the Middle East. That's why the military, beats it into our brains, because you can't think when, it hits the fan. They always say you rise to the occasion, but the reality is you regress back to the level of your training when you're put under stress and duress. So how good is your training, right? How good are your systems? If you were to leave, if you were to go on vacation, if you were to get sick, if you were like my neighbor and got hit by a drunk driver doing 101 miles an hour coming down a hill with his lights off at night, he was able to slow to a whopping 90 miles an hour at impact and eject my friend from his car through the passenger side despite having a seatbelt on, landed on his head, broke his leg in multiple places, and miraculously did not have a traumatic brain injury. We still don't know how that happens, but he's a physical therapist. So, here we are a month later, so almost 6 weeks later. He's getting around on crutches now, but it's going to be a long time before he can do his job. So how good are your systems? Can they exist and run and operate and produce income and even grow without you being around? What do you do for hiring people? How do you onboard them? How do you recruit? How do you screen them? Those are questions that I answer in the Make Every Sale program. It sounds like it's just a sales training course, and it's not. Because Make Every Sale is actually has dual meanings. The goal is to make every sale that you have a chance to close, right? But within that, you need to understand that every interaction with a human being, a sale is made. When you write an ad to hire someone, that's a sale. Do they read it? Do they respond? Do they follow instructions? You're selling them. They're selling you. When you go out to dinner, the waiter is selling you on the special. You're selling them on getting a side of vegetables instead of French fries at no extra charge. Okay, so every time two people meet, a sale is made. So when I talk about making every sale, I'm talking about your first impression. I'm talking about how you greet them. How do you engage? How do you pick their brain, determine need? What's your elevator pitch? How do you announce yourself? How do you describe what you do? Every part of that is a sale. And if you're not working on all of it, it's like being a golfer and you have maybe a great opening line and that's it. So that means you're good with a driver, but you know what? You only use a driver on 14 out of 18 holes. And that's at most. What if you're playing a shorter course? You're hitting a 3-wood, you're hitting a 5-wood, you're hitting a long iron. So you may only hit a driver 12 times, maybe only 9 times, half the time. But everybody just goes and hits driver, 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 driver. Meanwhile, you're going to putt 36 times. The course is designed for you to hit the driver 18 times or 14 times and your putter 36 times, more than 2 times more. But most people spend 10 times more on their driver, don't spend time with the putter. What about a pitching wedge? What about a sand wedge? I mean, so many things you got to work on in your golf game. Same thing in your sales game. What are you doing to grow it? Are you doing enough? Would you like a guarantee way to grow? MakeEverySale.com. Come join us. You can pick my brain. I answer questions while I'm there. So come see us. And now, go sell something.